but just to double check. Thank you, Tess. So now we're being recorded. So yeah, we'll also be popping this webinar on the CSE Thrive project page, which I will link at the end. So if anyone that you might know might like to watch it another time, or if you would, like to watch it back. What was I going to say? Yeah, if you've got any questions at all throughout the webinar, please feel free to pop them in the chat box. Our lovely Tess will be managing the chat box for us today. I've scheduled some time for Q&A at the end, so we'll cover as many questions as we can then. And also just to say, please shout if there's any tech issues, and I'll do my best to resolve them for you. And just a final check to say, can you all hear me okay? I'm clear and not muffled.
All good.
Lovely, thank you. So just to give you a little bit of background, so my name's Amy and I work for the Centre for Sustainable Energy. So we're an energy advice charity and we're based in Bristol. And we've got kind of three core departments that we kind of work in. So we have our advice line, and this covers a lot of the southwest in England. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about what our fab team of advisors do, please check out the first webinar that our lovely Tess hosted, and I'll link it on the project page at the end of the presentation. But we do, aside from advice, we do have projects that cover the whole of the UK. So we also have a research department, and they work closely with local authorities to kind of help support better energy policies, so we can kind of help people out of fuel poverty, but also cut some carbon at the same time. And then lastly, we have the team that myself and Tess are in, which is the local and community empowerment team. So this covers like the engagement side of things. So as a department, we work with schools, we also work with local authorities and communities. And as you could probably guess from this presentation, I primarily work with communities. So one of the projects that we work on is the Thrive Community Benefit Programme, who are supporting us today to deliver this extra little package of support for different community groups. So this programme has been running since 2016, and this year was the 7th year that the project's run, and this helps provide funding for community building energy efficiency projects. So groups that live or communities that reside kind of within 20 miles of a Thrive site can apply for up to £4,500 towards things like LED lighting, solar PV. We even had an application this year for some outdoor sockets so that they could provide the chance for people to charge their mobility scooters. So a real host of different measures. So this kind of can help groups to keep their energy costs down and keep those services running, but also save some carbon at the same time. And this year, Thrive awarded nearly £40,000 to 10 different community groups across the UK. But since the programme started, Thrive have awarded 61 grants to 50 buildings. This has come to nearly £200,000 in total. And from those measures that have been implemented, that's sort of saving 85 tonnes of CO2 every year, which is pretty cool. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Louise, who's going to talk about Thrive Renewables more generally. Over to you, Louise.
Thanks, Amy. My name is Louise Daniels. I'm from Thrive Renewables. We're a renewable energy generation company. We've got around 30 sites across the country. There's a little map there, some of which are still in construction. We operate mainly in wind, but also solar, hydro, geothermal, battery storage. So we cover really the range of technologies that the UK needs to transition to a clean energy system. We are a mission-driven business, and as such, we feel it's really important to have good relationships with our neighbours and the communities that host our projects. So we have this voluntary scheme, which has been going a long time now, and it's really incredibly positive for us to see the kind of work that you guys in the community are doing to make your to do, I guess, the maybe the unsung work around looking after community buildings, and in particular making them more sustainable, and obviously hopefully along the way making them warmer, cozier and cheaper to run, which obviously is the objective. We're really pleased this year to be able to extend the community benefit programme to be able to support you in how your community outreach and in your in your kind of decarbonising and also tackling fuel poverty within your communities. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all about it. Just for your information, my colleague Adrian will be replacing me partway through this session, but he'll be here at the end to answer any questions that you've got. But in the meantime, I'm looking forward to hearing all about the advice that CSE can provide, and I really hope that you find it useful, and I really appreciate you coming along.
Thanks so much, Louise.
I'm actually here now, Louise.
Oh, hello, Adrian.
I arrived just as you were starting.
Yeah, this is the lovely Adrian. He'll be with us for the Q&A at the end, and he's also from Thrive.
Hi.
Right, so let's go to our next slide. So I'm aware Tess did touch on this in the last webinar that we did with you, but I just wanted to provide a quick little refresher in case we've got any new faces here tonight, and equally if anyone just wants a bit of a reminder. Fuel poverty, it's defined in different ways in England and Scotland. So for England, we have this super catchily named low income, low energy efficiency indicator. And this was sort of brought about by the 2021 fuel poverty strategy. So under this indicator, a household will be classified as fuel poor if they live in a property with an energy efficiency rating, so like the EPC rating of band D to G, but also if once they've spent the kind of money to heat their home, they're left with a disposable income that takes them below the poverty line. And then for Scotland, it's slightly different. So they use a 10% two-part metric. So they classify someone in fuel poverty if more than 10% or 20% if it's extreme poverty of their net income is required to pay for their reasonable fuel needs after the housing costs, but also if their remaining income is not enough to maintain an acceptable standard of living. So this is after childcare and kind of other sort of disability or care benefits have been deducted. So according to National Energy Action, as of October 2021, 4.5 million UK households were in fuel poverty. And as of October this year, unfortunately, it's gone up to 6.3 million. So as I'm sure you're all aware, it's becoming an increasingly prominent issue. So why are communities really well placed to help tackle fuel poverty? So we've had some really great insights from Citizens Advice, the National Energy Action Charity, and the Fuel Bank Foundation. And they've highlighted that there's a real gap in understanding kind of what types of support is available nationally and locally. And they've also reported that a lot of these go-to trusted advice services are really seeing record numbers of people that are in energy crisis that need a lot of support to kind of cover their energy, but also food. And this kind of increase in demand is seeing a lot of services becoming increasingly strained. And also kind of with the cost of living crisis, inquiries from people are kind of becoming increasingly complex with a lot of different things intersecting. So a little bit more time consuming to resolve. And they also require a lot more training of those advisors to kind of make sure that they can cover a broad range of issues. So grassroots groups in particular are really, really well placed to reach people at a local level. So often through things like faith or befriending groups who may otherwise potentially slip through the net. Sorry. And community organisations as well are also really trusted and also can have quite a detailed level of knowledge in their areas, and also then kind of know what sort of support will work and may not work. So research has actually shown that when used as a form of a triage service, so kind of when lots of different agencies can kind of collaborate to refer people to different types of support. Things sort of like warm hubs and energy cafes can really sort of help to tackle fuel poverty in those areas. However, as I'm sure you're all aware, a lot of those community groups are undersourced and overstretched. So often can lack capacity or skills to get sort of access to those different referral pathways, but also kind of funding can be quite competitive. So particularly grassroots groups might find it difficult to sort of tap into those different funding streams. So this brings me to the first half of my my 4 case studies for this evening. So these have both received funding from one of CSE's other projects, which is called SGN Safe and Warm. So what is SGN Safe and Warm? Well, SGN, they are a gas distribution network. So they operate in this really wiggly bit of southeast England and all of Scotland. Sorry. And they allocate a certain percentage from customers' energy bills from their standing charges to generate some funding so they can support vulnerable people, but also increase carbon monoxide awareness. So just a little map here of their distribution areas in case that's useful. So how does it work? Well, the scheme provides grassroots groups specifically with the skills and up to £25,000 worth of funding so that they can support different vulnerable residents that are living in maybe hard to treat homes, those experiencing fuel poverty, and kind of to really help work with them to sort of help them understand what sorts of support might be available to them. So this covers quite a wide range of stuff. So all of the things that you can see on your screen now are the different criteria that the groups can report on. So this covers everything from energy and financial advice, so energy efficiency measures, energy schemes, debt advice and benefits eligibility checks, but also help to access the Priority Services Register, which Tess covered in her last webinar, as well as crisis support and information on carbon monoxide. And in this first round of the project, we've helped 34 different community organisations and supported nearly 36,000 people kind of at a grassroots level, which is pretty cool. And we've supported a real range of community groups sort of through this project. So I'm going to talk to you about the 2 of them now, just so you've got a little bit of an idea of what they've been up to. So the first group that we have is called CEDARS, and this stands for Community Drug and Alcohol Recovery. So they're based in southwest London, and for 30 years have supported what they refer to as high needs clients. So that's clients that support that need support with mental health issues. They might sort of have addiction, sort of substance misuse issues, kind of be trying to escape domestic violence situations and poverty as well. And they also have a variety of services that they aim at veterans and people with neurodiverse needs. And they support around 1,200 people every year. So their kind of approach, they really take like a nice holistic approach to help people improve their mental and physical, as well as social, emotional health and well-being. And they do this by a real kind of peer-led approach. They also help with those service users to increase, they call it recovery capital. This is basically just a set of tools that they can have in place to help them stay sober. And they also can help people kind of recover and reintegrate back into the community, but also offer support to and information to like their families and carers as well. So we picked this group specifically because people suffering kind of with their mental health can often become quite marginalised from their communities. And if they don't have a particularly good support network, can often lack awareness about energy savings and benefits. So they might miss out on what they're entitled to, and also if they are struggling with their mental health, may find kind of filling in forms for benefits checks and things quite overwhelming. So that's why we decided that they would be a good group to work with. So as part of their work, so they have a drop-in mental health recovery cafe. So this primarily aims to provide like a safe and welcoming environment where clients can access things like counselling, support groups, and different like health and wellbeing programs, as well as crisis intervention. So with their SGN funding, they train 6 of their clinical workers to give one-to-one energy advice. They also host regular workshops as well as drop-ins at their cafe. So the workshops in particular, they cover like a different topic every month. So they've done things like energy and money saving, carbon monoxide awareness, different sources of energy, and like a easy energy saving workshop as well. So it sort of really helped their clients to lower their energy bills by kind of switching to the right tariff and making different behavioural changes that can improve their housing conditions and their physical health as a result, particularly where they've been affected by fuel poverty. So as their approach is really nice and holistic and it's client-led, they really want to encourage people to speak about their situation and with the support of a clinical worker, come up with different solutions to those problems. So quite a couple of novel ways, which I thought would be quite interesting to share with you. So to kind of look at how clients can use their own skills to overcome those issues. So things like knitting, garments and blankets that they can use to obviously keep themselves warm and save some money, but they can also share that hobby with other people and reduce their social isolation as a result. And last for Cedars, they've also set up a gaming group. So this is video games rather than board games. And this is sort of aimed to attract people who might often be otherwise isolated at home. So people come together to enjoy gaming and sort of hang out. But the group also really love science and technology. So they really use that as the opportunity to kind of discuss, for instance, like the power consumption of like the latest technologies and gadgets, and sort of discuss how people can then save energy at home. And sort of the impact of that. So they've managed to support 339 households so far, and they absolutely smashed their target. So they surpassed over 60% of those and saved clients over £63,000, and like nearly 90% of those households they supported with the personalised energy and carbon monoxide advice, as well as access to energy efficiency measures, the benefits checks and debt advice and crisis support. So that's that one for Cedars. So case study 1 tick. So on to the next project. So this is the Network of International Women. So they are based in Brighton and Hove, and they formed in 2017 in the most wholesome way I think I've ever heard. So they got together to make a tapestry that comprised of 100 individual squares that showed where they came from and where they live now, which I just think is amazing. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a picture of the tapestry, but there's some other pictures on the slides for you to enjoy instead. But their membership has now grown to around 400 women. And they come from 56 different countries and speak 44 languages between them, and take part in lots of different activities. So their kind of mission, if you like, is to provide a safe space, but also social and personal support, things like mentoring, education, training, opportunities for employment, so that women sort of from diverse and marginalised backgrounds, as well as their families and friends, can make the most of the opportunities on offer and improve their quality of life. So they do this through a range of different activities, so sewing and art and crafts and things, as well as different cultural activities, so cooking food from around the world, spending lots of time outside sort of during ecotherapy sessions and trips around their local area so they can learn about civic engagement. And thanks to the SGN funding, they can now offer a casework service for people that are at risk of harm or suffering from hardship. And in particular, why did we pick this group? So often women sort of from diverse and marginalised communities can potentially struggle to access support due to language or cultural barriers, as well as things like immigration status, and lack of trust of kind of larger organisations, but also maybe issues with childcare support and social isolation and things like that. Language barriers in particular mean that these women can often be more likely to become victims of scams. With all the kind of energy rebate information that's been out there over the last couple of years, there's been probably twice as much of that has been energy rebate scams. So they're quite sort of vulnerable in that sense. And sort of with the cost of living crisis, it's really exacerbated those inequalities. And something that I found really stark that I wanted to include is some data from the New Economics Foundation, that the rise in costs for single female, Black, Asian or other ethnic minority households experience costs that are around 50% higher than their male and white counterparts, which I just thought was so stark. So yeah, this funding has kind of helped people to help the group to put on kind of like in-person appointments, but also kind of responding to calls and emails and things about different questions that they might have. So SGN, particularly through this programme, wanted to educate people about the Priority Services Register and also carbon monoxide. So they engaged their clients in lots of different ways, sort of through their weekly meetups and their one-to-one support, sort of through home visits and appointments and things like that, as well as self-referrals. And yeah, they've mentioned that the awareness of the PSR before the programme was really, really low. Not very many people know about it at all. So it's really helped the women that are on this part of this community group to get that additional support, as a lot of them have caring responsibilities, so have that additional peace of mind, knowing that they'll get some help if they have a power cut or a water leak. And for carbon monoxide awareness, so again, they've raised awareness through this from their weekly meetups and through the one-to-one supports, but they've also informed the women about some free child home safety advice and equipment that they can get from their local fire and rescue service. And as carbon monoxide is a silent and deadly gas, sort of understanding these risks can help women in this group to help take the sort of necessary precautions. So installing carbon monoxide detectors, maintaining sort of the proper ventilation in their heating systems, and getting sort of appliances that use combustion regularly serviced. So I'm just going to have a little drink. And sort of this proactive approach can really help sort of minimise potential accidents that can be caused kind of by malfunctioning appliances and things, and sort of, yeah, empower women to protect themselves and their families. And just wanted to finish off by, for the SGN case studies at least, finish off with a story. And I just want to point out as well, it's not the woman in this photo, just for safety precautions. Yeah, so a caseworker made a home visit to like a follow-up appointment for a vulnerable Syrian mum, and she had a 9-year-old boy. She was living in a Brighton and Hove council property, and the caseworker found that she had been using a camping stove indoors, as her gas stove had been out of order for quite a few weeks. So obviously following that appointment, got some advice from the fire and rescue service, who advised that they should definitely needed some support there to sort of stop doing that. So worked with the mum and the city council to make sure that they could get repair kind of put in place ASAP, but also a portable oven for her family to use temporarily, as well as some energy advice and some access to sort of food banks and things. So for this project, so this group in particular were very new to the area of energy before the funding. So this really helped them kind of to forge lots of different partnerships and collaborations with places like Citizens Advice, as well as the City Council's welfare rights team, and some interpreting services as well, so they could tailor that support regardless of what languages were spoken. And yeah, sort of really helped them increase their kind of comprehensive support package. So they supported 70 different households, and 3/4 of those were supported with personalised energy and carbon monoxide awareness advice, as well as support to access the Priority Services Register. But this project is still going, so these numbers will increase sort of by the end of the year. And just to say as well, this hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but I didn't just today want to talk about here's some cool projects and that be it, but to kind of give you sort of tools and things that you can use. So yeah, it's not been confirmed 100% yet, but we're hoping to launch a second round of this funding in the new year. in December, with sort of groups starting in the new year, which is quite exciting. So if you did have any more questions about that, please just give me an email or ask questions at the end, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But just to say, to be eligible for this funding, you do need to be in that map that I showed you in the wiggly bit of Southeast England or in Scotland. So enough about SGM. Moving on swiftly to another project that we've been involved with. So this is called Big Local. So this is a national lottery fund scheme. And since 2011, they've been giving out £1 million worth of funding to 150 what they call left behind communities. So this is where they've maybe not received their fair share of investment, so can often lack different services and facilities that lots of us can take for granted, and these are the facilities that can often really bring a community together, so places like community centres, etc. So Lawrence Weston was one of those groups. So they are a post-war housing estate of 7,000 people, and they're based 5 miles outside of Bristol. Sorry, not outside of Bristol, 5 miles from the centre of Bristol. So deprivation levels here are actually some of the highest in the UK, but particularly for things like skills and employment, health, income and crime. So yeah, quite a deprived area. So they worked with an organisation called Ambition Lawrence Weston. So they are a development trust and neighbourhood forum charity. And they'd already collaborated with the community to develop like a neighbourhood plan. So this gave the residents there a voice and a vote to help them address primarily the social injustices that were being faced in the area, including fuel poverty. So this plan actually helped to secure them the funding because they could really kind of clearly articulate what their residents wanted to see happen in their area. So with this funding, they managed to install England's tallest wind turbine. And this is running at the moment and is generating power for 3,200 homes, but it's also providing, more importantly, a long-term source of income to enact their neighbourhood plan. So as part of that, they wanted to build 36 affordable but really, really efficient homes, as well as a community centre. And then as kind of like a secondary benefit, so they didn't kind of come at this from the climate side, they came at it from the sort of social injustice side. They are also saving 4,500 tonnes of CO2 during the wind turbine's lifetime. So with that, I have a video to share because I'm sure you're sick of my voice. So we'll have a little break from it. But yeah, can we just check if someone could just let me know when it loads?
Yeah, all good.
Can you hear that? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
We're trying to regenerate the area and take care of the health and well-being of the residents, all 7,200 of them, in a holistical way, if you like. So we're involved in housing. We're building 36 highly energy efficient, affordable homes. We're building an energy efficient community centre to provide the social infrastructure we need to carry on delivering the residents' plans for the foreseeable future. We're delivering leisure facilities, and of course, we're still delivering our bread and butter sort of stuff, which is direct grassroots support for the residents, especially those that are more vulnerable than others.
Underlining the aptly named Ambition Lawrence Weston's commitment to these aims is a 47-page climate action plan covering energy, transport, employment and the environment. Among the ideas, a large wind turbine to generate electricity and an income for the community.
Community is a community that wants to regenerate itself so that it's able to meet the challenges of fuel poverty, job insecurity and so on, and to deliver their community plan. Behind me is a wind turbine that they're surrounded by, and they said to me, well, we've got these turbines all around us, why can't we have one of those? So that's what they put me to task on.
I met David Tunchy 6-7 years ago at a conference in London where he was receiving an award for a community scheme that he'd been involved in. and he came across to see me, and he asked what was the largest turbine Enercon produced, and we had a nice discussion for a few minutes, and he went away and he felt energized by the discussion, and with the view that he could replicate, building a project for a community with community involvement.
The turbine that we are building on our site, which is owned by the community, is a brand new modern turbine, and it's probably about 50 metres taller than this one, and it's twice the rated power. It will also be quieter, and it will last longer.
In fact, the Ambition Lawrence Weston turbine will be the tallest in England. At 150 metres, the structure is nearly the same height as Blackpool Tower. It will have the capacity to power 3,000 homes and will save over 12,000 tonnes of carbon emissions during its lifetime.
It's taken about 6 years to get from the idea to a consented funded application and boots on the ground, basically.
With the build now underway, Ambition Community Energy expects that this amazing piece of structural engineering will be completed and producing electricity by early summer 2023. As well as providing financial benefits for Lawrence Weston.
There is payback, and there will be a community fund to benefit Lawrence Weston.
Who would have thought a small impoverished community like ours in Lawrence Weston could have achieved such a massive challenge of building the tallest wind turbine in England, which is great news for everyone. I think sometimes people do get a little bit confused that perhaps the residents of Lawrence Weston are all green activists and really engaged with the climate. Things couldn't be further from the truth. The reason why we embarked on delivering a wind turbine was not to address the climate emergency we're all faced with, but more so to address the social injustice emergency that we've been coping with for many, many years. So the reason for the wind turbine is to generate economic sustainability for my community, and to go on to use that money to address some of the issues that the residents are facing, fuel poverty and obviously the inflation rising day by day.
Before I move on to the next slide, I was going to play again. Problems with embedding a video into your slides. Just keep going. So if that is a project that you wanted to find out a little bit more about, CIC have actually just recently released a report back in September this year about that, which I've linked in the slides, so do check that out. So for my last case study of this evening, we're going to be heading to the Midlands, more specifically Warwickshire Rural Community Council, or WRCC for short. So they're aiming to tackle disadvantage and support resilience, particularly in rural Warwickshire communities. And they're a real veteran. They've been going since 1937, so good on them. The way that they work, so they have a network of different village halls, and they provide bases for communities to enjoy music and drama, but also kind of different activities, have clubs, and they've got some playing fields there as well. And more recently, they've been working to kind of try and bring residents together to tackle social isolation and fuel poverty through their warm hubs. So residents, particularly in villages and kind of semi-rural areas, are often kind of disproportionately affected by kind of a lack of access to chances to socialise and different amenities, but also kind of poor public transport and fuel costs, and have also been negatively affected by kind of COVID and the rapidly increasing costs of living. So these stats are from last year. They are running this project again this year, but obviously I don't have the stats for that just quite yet. But yeah, last year there was 92 different warm hubs around the area, which are all on this map here. And they are, as the name would suggest, a warm but also a safe space where anyone can grab a hot drink or a snack and potentially a hot meal as well. So although 60% were set up to provide kind of a cost of living support to residents, 2/3 of people actually primarily came for the social aspect. So this, like the warm hubs can be kind of set up around maybe like a board games event or an after school club for kids to kind of come and do their homework in like a nice warm space or a cooking club. However, whilst kind of people were there, they often use the kind of chance to talk to people about how to minimise their energy costs and signpost people to different support where they needed it. And kind of some feedback from the organisers. So 97% felt that the hubs had improved the well-being of their attendees, and nearly 70% provided cost of living support through the last winter. So some really vital work going on there. So hubs that applied for between £300 to £500 funding this year. Applications have now closed, and it is just open to this kind of Warwickshire area. But the people that did sign up got kind of access to lots of different training opportunities. So training to help people become community energy champions, which I can talk you through a little bit at the end. But they've also kind of offered people training in different safeguarding and risk management, things like volunteer management, and sort of things like bid writing and first aid as well. Just to reiterate, these are sadly not open access, but I do have some resources for you coming up at the end. So yeah, you're not being left empty-handed. In addition to their warm hubs, so the WRCC also run slow cooker workshops. So slow cookers actually can cost as little as 5p to run per hour. So much cheaper to run than standard ovens, and can often free up time for people that have really busy evenings, kind of with childcare responsibilities and things. I have actually linked a article in this slide to a Which article, which it compares like oven versus air fryer versus slow cooker for like different things. So like cooking a chicken, some chips, some soup, a cake, which I thought was quite interesting. So do check that out if you wanted to find out a little bit more about that, if you're nerdy about energy use like me. So the WRCC, they do offer the slow cooker course. It's like a free 4-week course, and every week they get an hour-and-a-half session. So there's a real focus on kind of healthy eating, but also saving money. So they have a focus on kind of like really easy to prepare meals that use like low cost ingredients, and kind of support people to develop their cooking skills, but also enjoy some nice tasty food. So the way that they work is a volunteer will actually pre-make the dish before the session so people can try it. And then walk them through the preparation process during the session, and then kind of talk about different variations of the dish so they can try and keep things nice and exciting. And then in addition to the people kind of spending time in a nice warm environment, every attendee gets their own slow cooker, as well as ingredients and recipes, as well as hygiene information, so like how to safely prepare chicken and things. And then after the demonstration, they can then go home and cook the meal for themselves at some point during the week. And every person that attended those courses got like an energy saving pack with things like a carbon monoxide alarm and a thermometer card. And there's some feedback at the bottom there from one of the sessions, which I thought was really nice to include. But yeah, just to iterate, I definitely didn't want to leave you empty-handed today. So in addition to the fact sheets that Tess mentioned last time, which I have relinked here for you. So these, for anyone that's new this evening, they're free fact sheets on our website. So we have loads of different topics, including things like understanding your bills. We also have a new mold one that I think has just been released. So yeah, go and check that out. That's hot off the press. But then we've also got some, so these are more kind of like domestic based, but we do also have ones that are specific for community groups on how to run kind of like various different workshops. So we have a how to run your own slow cooker workshop, as well as, so we like making a draft proofing snake here at CSE. So we have kind of links on how you can do that, but also how you can run a workshop on it. But then also things like how to host an energy day, which is sort of similar to like a warm hub, and then how to start your own fuel poverty project as well, kind of whether or not you have funding. I have also linked in this as well the resource that Tess made for you all, which signposts you to the nearest energy advice charity in relation to your Thrive site. So do check those out. They're all linked in there for you, and I was hoping to kind of create like a nice resources pack from the slides. And then some last few resources for you. So there is also some free trainings offered by the Gas Safety Charity, and they primarily focus on carbon monoxide awareness. So you know, as people that suffer from fuel poverty, like kind of, for instance, less likely to get their boiler serviced regularly, or might not have a carbon monoxide alarm, or a working one, yeah, they've got a free webinar where you can, your team can kind of watch and then talk to your communities about it. They've also, on the right-hand side of the page that's linked on the slide, they have some free printable resources as well. So CSE doesn't have carbon monoxide specific printouts, but these guys do. So do check those out. And then lastly, from National Energy Action, so we briefly mentioned becoming a community energy champion. So that's basically training that can be offered to members of the community so that they can talk to their friends and neighbours about different kind of services that are on offer, kind of signpost people to different services that they might need. So National Energy Action, they're a fuel poverty charity. They operate in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Everyone that starts at CSE gets to attend their level 3 City and Guilds course, which is really like a crash course on all things energy advice related. So everything sort of from the basics to like what is fuel poverty to the more kind of technical things, sort of like how to program different meters and the wide diversity of radiators, of which there's like 25, which I didn't know before working at CSE, but I do now. Yeah, although sadly this one isn't a free course, I did link it there for you in case it was of interest, but I fully appreciate that resources are very limited. So I've also found a shorter 3.5-hour boot camp that's just available on YouTube from National Energy Action that you can watch, and it's specifically tailored to giving energy advice this winter. So definitely check that out, and I have included just a screen grab of the agenda for that. So if there's any topics on there that you think might be good to have a little look at, obviously minus the comfort breaks, but yeah, do check that out. Right, that is everything from me. If we open the floor to questions, do we have any in the chat, or does anyone want to unmute themselves and I'll happily answer? And Adrian and Tess are also on side as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, do let us know if you've got any questions, or equally if you're doing any of these kind of projects in your area as well. So I'm sure some of you are no stranger to maybe a slow cooker workshop, or you know, running a warm space. Would be really interested to hear about how your approach to tackling fuel poverty is in your community. So feel free to unmute yourself, or just let us know in the chat if you've got any yeah, sort of local examples of some of the things you've been doing, because I know that we've got quite a range of organisations as well. So yeah, do feel free to let us know. And any other questions, yeah, please let us know as well.
Was there anything in the chat at all, Tess?
Nope, all good. Just
No, cool.
yeah, just everyone letting us know. Yeah, if anybody, yeah, has anyone got any questions? Or Adrian, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add, feel free.
Not particularly. It's really interesting. I'm interested to know what kind of activities people are running in their own community.
Yeah.
If anyone's got examples, that I think this sort of forum is really nice to share. I love the idea of slow cooker workshops. It's not something I've come across before, but that's a really good idea.
No,
Yeah, I
me
think
neither.
they tend to work well with like well, obviously sort of like the provision of food, but also around food waste. So you know, that's something that everyone's kind of, you know, got their eye on, not wasting food, and how can you cook in a more economical way. So that kind of fits in well with food banks and all the rest of it as well. I'm just going to drop the survey into the chat, so let us know how you found this evening. But yeah, if anybody's got any more questions, please do let us know. Amy will summarize all of those wonderful resources into an email for you tomorrow, so that you can fill your boots with those kind of case studies and anything you want to take away.
Yep. And also, if there was any questions that anyone had, but you maybe didn't want to unmute yourself or ask in the chat today, send an email to thrive@cse.org.uk, and one of us will definitely get back to you. Or if, yeah, you want to kind of check with someone first before getting in touch, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, just to say as well, with the Thrive project page, so there's the link to Tessa's webinar from last time on there. There's also the finding an energy charity tool on there that Tess made as well, and also some information about the Thrive funding programme. But yeah, if we don't have any questions at all, I mean, definitely check out the survey. You definitely won't want to miss out on answering those questions for us. But yeah, if
And
that's everything.
There's one more session in this series of webinars, isn't there? But not till the
Yes.
new year.
In January, we'll be doing a community buildings focused webinar, which will hopefully feature some of the groups that have been funded through this year's grant program. So we'll be able to hear some updates about how their improvements have gone. But we will make sure that we let you know about that as well. You can sign up now, but probably a refresher in the new year will be good. And yeah, we hope that you enjoy that. It's a bit more sort of technical, practical kind of webinar, that one. Yeah.
And I guess if there aren't any questions, if anyone's got thoughts about things they would like to see covered in these kind of webinars from CSE,
yeah, please,
then that'd be really interesting as well.
please let us
Yeah,
know. Or yeah, just sort of what the kind of fuel poverty provision is like in your area would be interesting to know as well and understand. Yeah, we've got some very quiet attendees, which is fine. I can't force you to talk. But yeah, unless there's anything else, we'll leave you to your evening.
Yeah, and just to say thank you so much to everyone that came tonight. It's
Yeah,
really lovely to
great.
see all of your faces. And yeah, I hope you found it informative and useful and hopefully interesting.
Yeah, we'll send out some follow-ups very soon. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Tess.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.